Welcome to the Ladies Who Leverage podcast, where we empower women to connect authentically, build strategically, and live life unapologetically AF. It's time for women to embrace that they are powerful at their core and to leverage their expertise, resources, and relationships to build their business, their brand, and their badassery. I'm your host, Kelly Charles Collins, and we invite you to subscribe to the Ladies Who Leverage podcast. Our episodes drop every Monday at 9 a.m. Eastern. So listen, enjoy, share, and subscribe. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Ladies Who Leverage podcast. I'm really excited about our guest today. Her name is Diane Yoo, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. But why am I excited? I'm excited because as a female entrepreneur, we've seen the studies, and they talk about the fact that women businesses suffer from a lack of funding. And I think a lot of that is around a lack of knowledge and information. And so Diane is in the venture capital space. And I am so excited that she's going to talk to us about that and teach us a little bit more, because I think that women need to understand more about this space. So let me give you her background, and then we're going to jump right in. So Diane is a results-driven entrepreneur and venture capitalist with more than 15 years of experience. As an accredited investor, she has invested in 35 plus companies with a focus on diverse founders, which I absolutely love. She's created 15 funds in the last year alone, and is in the 1% of Asian American female founders who are also a partner. So we're not just talking to anybody. We are talking to a woman who knows what she is doing. Diane has founded angel networks, venture funds, and investment networks. She's also founding partner for a Medtech and Healththech venture capital firm in partnership with the largest medical center of the world. With venture capital and accelerator expertise, she works extensively with over 700 global companies, and her firm has deployed significant capital in the startup ecosystem. As a venture capitalist, Diane is committed to creating value through education and mentorship to businesses from an investment perspective. And she's also a mentor to nationally ranked accelerators, incubators in the entrepreneurial space, and innovation ecosystems. Now, I know for many of you, that was a mouthful, but we are going to break it all down. So Diane, welcome to the Ladies Who Leverage podcast.
Great to meet you, Kelly. Thank you. What an honor.
Thank you. So let's back up a little bit, Diane, just so that people get a sense of where you were and how did you get into this venture capital space? And then we'll talk all about venture capitalism.
Sure. Absolutely.
You want to give me a little bit about your background?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started as an entrepreneur in restaurant business, actually, and started building a portfolio. And from there, I learned entrepreneurship 101. I mean, I was nonstop working around the clock, plumbing issues. You're talking about how to build standard ops from the inside and out, and how to build franchises, how to secure contracts and negotiate them. And then from local, national to international, and soon had a portfolio of concepts. And then from there, I went into fashion design. So I never knew I was really artsy fartsy, but I was like, I'm going to take a year off to just focus on the creative. And I feel that if I could do that, maybe I can expand as a businesswoman, thinking outside the box and being creative. And so I did that, and I was able to really enter the world of fluffy clouds, pink unicorns, and glitter everywhere. And I loved it. And there was so much creativity that was really drawn up in that area. Then went on to work for corporate for these fashion luxury houses to retail. And at that time, Instagram had just come out. So it was a wild west. We were trying to figure out how to do influencer marketing, digital e-commerce. And they threw me to it. They're like, figure it out, create the general management templates. And from there, I really enjoyed it. And I said, I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I'm going to do this for myself. And then went to compete at the largest pitch competition in the world, where we placed at the qualifiers with over 400 companies applying. It was a great opportunity, built an amazing team of MBA people and some really experienced C-suite people. And we hit the ground running. And at that time, firsthand knew the pain points of growing and scaling a company, but also how hard it was to find funding as a woman in BIPOC, right? Person of color.
I love it. I love that you followed your creative juices and energy. Because I think so many times when we're in a space, right? So you were in, the restaurant space and you were doing what you were doing, and then you went into that company. And sometimes we think, oh, maybe I shouldn't go take that journey. But I always say take the detour, because you never know where it's going to lead you. And the skills that you learn along the way doing all of these different things will come back to serve you, which is exactly what happened with you, going into the fashion industry.
Exactly. And so it was really an opportunity. My computer is about to, sorry about that. And so from there, I was like, you know what? I'm going to create an opportunity to be on the other side and be in the power seat of investing capital, because I saw how difficult it was to fundraise capital, and being in Houston, fashion would go over investors' head. They'd be, you talk to them about a fashion startup, they're like, fashion, we're not known for fashion. We are Atlanta Cowboys and Cowboys here, but and talk about tech 5 years ago, there wasn't much of a VC scene. You couldn't get a job. And I actually walked into one room, investor room, and they said, what is blockchain? I knew right then, Kelly, I was in the wrong room, wrong city, and something had to change. So I got my MBA from Rice University, studied finance. And then they said again, just like I did in fashion, I started from the bottom. In my early 30s, I worked for zero money. I worked literally in the sweatshops all the way to working on the corporate side and then launching my own company. So I started that again. And in the VC world, they said at that time in Houston, there are no really jobs. It will be impossible for you to even become a general partner. You don't have experience, all these closed doors and no's. So I shredded all the way down to the bottom. I said, I will take a job. I will do internship without pay. Started again from the bottom, started working at these VC firms, learning everything I could at these boutique firms, wearing multiple hats, had the opportunity to become the managing director of the Rice Angel Network. We were able to hire out 10 people and really grow that across the globe. It was an incredible experience. And then today have launched over 4 venture capital firms, making it to the top 1% as an Asian American woman fund founder.
Sometimes you have to do that, right? You have to just come in at the low end. Sometimes, we think with our experiences in life, jobs that we've had, education that we have, and we want to get into a space, we want to get in at the level that we believe that we should be at, right? Or that we know we really should be. But sometimes, like you said, in this space, it was necessary for you to get in. And I think that was probably better. Do you think, Diane, that it was probably better that they didn't just accept you right up here, and that you had to go in at the ground level and really learn piece by piece by piece so that you understood the entire system of being a venture capitalist?
Absolutely.
What would you say?
It's like my day one when I was at the restaurant. When I started my own firm, you want to get in there and learn every nut and bolt and nugget of what could go wrong at a firm when you're starting a company. So, get in where you can. If you can't get paid, who cares? Get in and learn as much as you can. And then from there, build and grow. And you got to continue to progress your career.
Yeah. It was funny when I was practicing law. I don't practice anymore, but when I was practicing law, probably in about my 6th or 7th year, we were having a meeting in our office. And at the time, my assistant was like the receptionist and like everybody else. And I said to my boss, listen, I need a full-time assistant. I can't do all this. I need help. And he looked across the table at me, Diane, and he said, suck it up. And I was pissed. I was so upset with that man. He told me to suck it up. But it was one of the best pieces of advice I have ever received, because what it made me do, I had to learn how to do my cases from the time they became a problem until, it was finished in the court system. And so I learned every single step of the way, which at the time I didn't even realize was unique until I started to get in other firms and realize that people only knew pieces, right? They only knew their piece. And so there's so much value in understanding each of the steps along the way. I think it makes you more powerful, and I think it makes you a better leader.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can't really go in and tell others what to do. And, when I love mentoring, I take a lot of interns in and associates and analysts, and I love to just bring them under my wing and teach them and launch them. But you can't do that if you don't know what you're doing.
So let's dig in, because we've said venture capital, venture capitalism, investment networks, all kinds of stuff. And people are probably, some people are like, what are y'all talking about? What is all of that? So what is venture capitalism?
Sure. It's an alternative form of investment where instead of, for example, going to a bank or going to an angel network, and I'll talk about that too, venture capital is actually a professionally run fund by a managing director or general partner that will manage people's money, meaning investors' money. And this fund really, the investors come in and say, hey, I'll give you $1, I'll give you $1 million, manage my money. And we go in and make that decision. And it's called a blind pool. And so we make this decision based on so much vetting and due diligence in our experience. Whereas an angel network, right, is a group of basically volunteers, and the investors themselves have a say on what to invest. And they'll be part of these committees as well for decision, called investment committees or different due diligence committees as well.
And so so venture capitalists and angel investors are investing in someone's business, right? So I have a business. So it could be that someone is investing in my business. Is there a different level or threshold where you would say there would be a venture capitalist who would be interested as opposed to an angel investor?
Great question, Kelly. Absolutely. So for angel, we like to say, and this is how they taught us at Rice Business School, the first round, let's say you have a business, you have a beauty salon or a cookie shop. I got to go get money. I got to get funding. The first round is called FFF, friends, family, and fools. That's what it's called, right? Call your uncle, your cousin, anyone that will risk their $50 on you. After that round, you're really building out your pilot, right? Just to test it in the waters. Then you say to the angels, the next level is, hey, I'm going for more funding. I built out a little bit more of my technology. It's still a little flimsy, but I have it, right? And you go to these angels, and typically they'll give anywhere $10,000, $25,000 checks, right? It could be a lot more. There's super angels as well, and giving away $1 million. Then you, as an entrepreneur point of view, then you go for potential next round of funding, which would be venture funding. And at that time, you could have a pilot, you could not have a pilot. There's all sorts of different areas that you may be in, whether it be a pre-seed, seed, series A, series B, these different series of where you are classified as an entrepreneur. But these VCs, they're serious. Sometimes we call them vulture capitalists, right? They will come in and eat your equity, eat your lunch. So you have to go in and know how much equity you hold at stake as an entrepreneur, and how to negotiate with a venture capitalist who is a professionally managed fund.
So from listening to you, I think part of that is then if you're even going to think about going to an angel or going to a VC, understanding your business and the numbers, particularly where you talk about VCs, looking at the equity in your company. Do both VCs and angels take some type of equity stake in the company?
That's right. At every stage where you go funding, say, hey, I'm in seed, right? I'm going to go funding and I'm going to close it out. Okay, my fundraise is done. Now I'm going to go to Series A, right? So every time you have these rounds, you continue to get diluted. And that's why at the end, let's say you exit in 5 years, I make $1 billion, you won't have much equity left. So it all comes down to, from an entrepreneur, if I'm talking to a sea of entrepreneurs here, the entrepreneur point of view is, how do you negotiate and keep the majority of your equity? There's secrets to that sauce. And I'm giving that to you as a venture capitalist inside and out. There are certain things we look for that you could use as leverage as an entrepreneur.
So Diane, and I might be thinking of this wrong, but as I'm hearing this, is it that when you're going for an angel investor or towards venture capitalists, are you in a space where you're thinking long-term you're going to exit, or is it people who really want to hold on to their business?
Absolutely. So that's the difference between for example, like a small business versus what is a venture, they call it venture-backed company, right? A venture-backed company. So as an entrepreneur, you're like, hey, I'm going to get funded, Series A, Series B, Series C. I hit my 150 million valuation. I'm going to exit in year 5 at 500 million. I'm on a fast track. I'm going to be highly scalable, and I'm on a fast track mentality to exit in 5 years and be a billionaire. That's more of a VC, those tech companies, and you'll see all these young techies, billionaires under 30 years old in Silicon Valley versus mom and pop's bakery store. They're not looking to exit 500 million in 5 years and fast track that.
So are there certain industries that lend themselves better to angel investing and venture capitalists than others?
It really, yes, it could be like tech related companies, right? But it also it's the other way around. It's if you have a really great venture capitalist, these funds could be generalist funds, or they could be funds that are like medtech or fashion or consumer, food, bev tech. You need to find the right venture capitalists that will take you under the arm, that you will get funded, but really, let's take the money out. Let's say they're going to give $1 million. The smartest thing to ask as an entrepreneur to that venture capitalist is, what can he give me without $1 million? I need access to all the sales channels I can get. It's almost like Shark Tank, where you see Lori, the blonde hair lady, who's on, the QVC queen, right?
Yeah.
And she did this Bantam bagel. You see it at Starbucks. It's a bagel filled with cream cheese, a tiny little bagel bites, right? Would she go to Mark Cuban, or would she go to Lori if you had a pizza, concept? You'd go to Lori because she has access to all these grocery stores. Mm-hmm. So, when you're pitching to these investors, and especially venture capitalists that are professionally run, they have access to your industry sales channels.
Yeah. And it's so interesting. I mean, it's interesting, and it's I think for some people probably a little bit confusing, and talking about all of this. So if you think of like female entrepreneurs, we have a lot of female entrepreneurs who are in service-based businesses, right? Lots of them are coaches, or like me, I'm a mentor. I have a global network of women. So there are a lot of women who are doing those types of businesses. Do those businesses lend themselves to venture capitalists and to angel investors?
Are these is purely a network based, like a nonprofit, or?
No, for profit. So for example, if you you may just have a coaching business, right? So that you coach women. Like my Ladies Who Leverage is a global network and a mentoring accelerator. So there are women who are in there, and I mentor them to help them to build their businesses. But would those types of businesses, because I know so many women are in those types of businesses, do those businesses lend themselves to, pitching to an angel investor or a venture capitalist?
Absolutely. If you see and another great opportunity is if you have an AI or tech or SaaS, let's just say tech platform, like maybe you have a dating app style to match mentors to coaches or whatever you do, right? Then you think, I'm going to scale this and I'm going to exit it in 5 years, rather than I'm just taking, 2 clients a year. Mm-hmm. So if you're like, hey, I'm going to exit, that's my plan, versus you don't want to exit, you're going to keep this as a legacy for the next 30 years till you die. So that's the difference.
Okay, got it. All right. So when we're talking, there was one other thing that you talked about was that I wanted to ask you the difference about that. An investment network. How is that different, or is it different from angel investing and venture capitalists?
Yes, it is different. So angel funds are basically a group of volunteers that are not paid to go in and bring deals in and also make decisions on these deals. Venture capitalist is run by like a managing partner, director, principal, general partner that has experience in managing money, deal sourcing, bringing in deals, and they are tasked with a fiduciary responsibility to get those returns and give it back to those investors. They make those decisions. The LPs are out, the investors are out. They do not make any decision. They're not part of that investment committee. An investment network is similar to what you have in network, but if we were to create just an investment network, and it's not a fund. So we just have fun like a club, and we'll pass deals around. Hey, I got this deal. Let's look at it. Let's talk about it like a book club on a monthly basis. You need connections, I'll give you connections. You need funding, I'll help you out. But I'm not a fund that will professionally, take over your startup and help you grow and exit them.
Okay, that makes much more sense to me. Okay, so I know that one of the things that you want to do in this space is really to help diverse women. And so why is that important to you? And how have you been really spearheading that in the venture capital space?
Absolutely. So as a first woman and diverse woman in Houston to launch a medical VC fund, I'm very passionate about it. And also as a woman, minority, person of color, entrepreneur, I see firsthand the pain points and the challenges of fundraising, both sides, like the whole 360, right? And at the end of the day, there are not enough women on the entrepreneur side where funding is being deployed to diverse women. It's less than 2% of women are VC backed, right? Less than, including all women of color, right? Less than 1% for Black women are funded in the world of the billion-dollar VC. How insane is that? And on the flip side, what opportunities are we providing people of color to rise to the executive top ranks in finance, of private equity, finance, et cetera? We need to fast track that. There's a huge lack of that. So on both sides, whether it be the executive positions of finance firms too, in venture capital, or entrepreneurs, we need to provide more opportunity for diverse women.
Yeah. And what you said about, the education part and that you're so focused on that, I think that's so important because I think people just don't even know. I'm an educated person. I'm a lawyer. I've been a lawyer for many, many years. And if you were to ask me to sit down and explain to you about venture capitalism and angel investors, I can tell you on a surface level what I've seen on the internet. But even to just, what does it really mean in terms of a business? How do you get involved? How do you even be like you, Diane, and say, no, I am going to be the venture capitalist. I am going to be the angel investor. Where do you get that type of education? So I'm so excited that this is something that you are really focused in on, because I don't think it's a lack of desire. I think it's a lack of knowledge, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that that's so important. And so if somebody, they don't want to be an angel investor, they don't want to be a venture capitalist, but they would like to leverage that, right? How would they even go about finding one of these networks?
So you're saying, how can someone like us become the next general partner or fund founder of a venture capitalist firm, right? So I would start learning as much as you can, like we mentioned, get an internship.
Oh, sorry. I was saying, like, how could business owners, so like an entrepreneur, sorry about that. I wasn't clear enough. How do entrepreneurs go and find an angel investor or a venture capitalist to work with them in their business? Sorry about that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, great question. So, it's really hard to, these huge firms like $500 million or plus, it's hard to talk with that partner because there's so many layers to even getting there. You got to get through the intern, the analyst, the associate, and they actually, let's say you give me a deal, right? Your startup gives me a deal. It doesn't go to me. It actually goes to the bottom of the tank and it goes to our analysts and associates. And they are the first blush. They're vetting hundreds of deals out on a weekly basis, for example. And then they present to the partners, on a monthly, weekly, whatever that cadence is, and say, hey, these are the top 3 out of 100 I looked at this week. And then that gets sent to the partners or the investment committee. And then there's like a process. It finally gets to the partners. And you're like, congratulations, entrepreneur. We're going to set up a meeting with you. And you've already set up a lot of meetings. And then finally the partner. And so the best way to get in with a great firm is look who their portfolio companies are and see if you have any connections. Reach out to them and say, hey, can you give me an intro to your investor?
And does the business have to be at a certain level in terms of revenue, or are there any other benchmarks that someone should look at their business and say, yes, it is ready for me to go seek out, a venture capitalist or an angel investor?
Oh, that's a great question. So from an angel, typically you go the angel route. And then after that, you go the venture route. And there are people that do both as well. But it really depends on what stage you are. So if you're a pre-seed, seed, Series A, there are VC firms that will vet you out. Let's say you're a seed and I'm a Series A venture firm. I will quickly vet you out and we will not even move forward. But if you're a Series A and you hit my vetting criteria for revenue and many other items, then we may take a look at that. So every fund has different criteria.
Okay. And when you say seed, what do you mean by that?
I'm sorry, say it again.
When you say seed, what do you mean by that?
Sure. So, pre-seed, for example, is let me start all the way from the bottom. You have ideation, right? You have these terms called accelerators and incubators. These are like innovation hubs that will churn out entrepreneurs in 3 months or whatever, right? So when you're ideation or pre-seed, a lot of them go to these accelerators and incubators, which I 100% support, because then you have that branding and you're bulletproof, right, on your deck and how to pitch. And so typically at that point, you're just a pilot and you're testing out the waters, you're building out your tech platform, you're still building sales clients, and you're testing everything out, right? And then at seed, potentially you could be making revenue, your beta has already been tested, you're past a certain number of metrics in terms of revenue and milestones and everything like that. And then your total valuation may be around 10 million. So there's a lot of factors to identify, seed, Series A, Series B, for example.
Thank you for that clarification, because I think that's important for people to understand too, because I think some people might think that seed is like, well, I'm starting my business, but understanding that it's a little bit more than that, and understanding that there might be revenue thresholds, there might be some other requirements. So, to make sure to research and don't just put yourself out there and try to jump in, because you may not be successful. And then you think, oh, well, it's me, but it just might be that you're just not ready yet. So, doing the research to make sure that you're ready and your business is ready to be in this space.
And, what would look terrible is if you talk to a venture capitalist fund and investor and you're like, hey, I'm a Series A, and you don't even know what that term means, but you're really like a pre-seed. That's really bad.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, when I was reading all about this and I was looking at there, I said, there's so many different terms that you need to understand so that you understand where you are, where your business is, and to be able to speak that language. Because when, if you do get someone to make an introduction and they're like, congratulations, entrepreneur, right? It's time for you to pitch, and you have no concept. You've just blown not only that deal, but you've blown, like, messed up a relationship that brought you into this space. So it's so important as we go into all of these things to not just jump in because we hear people talking about it, right? And so we're like, oh, I'm going to go do that. No, you better learn.
Hold on. Yeah.
You better learn all this stuff. So when you're when you are looking at companies, Diane, how do you choose which entrepreneurs to invest in?
It's a great question. So each fund has like a report card. We call it a scorecard, right? Internally. And those fund internally, we all have what we're looking for in terms of metrics. Like, hey, we're only going to invest in seed. You have to be under 10 million in terms of valuation. You have to have revenue. You have to have ARR at certain million. You have to be in this industry sector. You have to have proven sales clients on the line. There's so many things. There's many things in our Excel sheet that we go through, and then it computes a valuation and the score, the actual like report card. And if you're able to perform, for example, over 90% or a certain percentile, we'll then review you. But it's not as simple as ABC. It's actually an entire scoring process internally.
That's a lot. That is a lot. And then how do you, is it different? Is it different when you're talking about female or minority owned businesses? Are there different criteria as opposed to a majority owned business?
No, so it's not, that may be more government angle, but okay. For venture, no. But however, the spin on it is if you're a woman or a person of color, you should go after those funds. There are funds that focus on diverse founders, or funds that focus on women only, right? There are other funds. I know of like a $600 million fund, 0 woman fund founder that they've invested in, right? So you want to, on the flip side, research those funds and see what type of people they invest into.
And if the listeners and viewers wanted to learn more about venture capitalism and investor funds and investment networks, where would you point them? Like, where should they start their education?
Yeah. Gosh, there's so many places to start. Like, number one, there's so many online courses you could try. There's books you can buy on Amazon. Go get an internship. Or the best part, if the end goal is I want to be a venture capitalist, is actually the number one advice is be an entrepreneur, have an exit, because then you'll know what you're doing when you invest. You got $1 million, I'm going to invest in 5 other companies, but I'm going to do it in what I know best in my industry, whatever that is.
This is awesome. This is so much great information. And I know that we have just not even hit the tip of the iceberg when it comes to this. But, Diane, thank you so much for coming on and giving us just an overview and some insight so that people can now go out and, as they're researching, like, oh, I heard that, Diane said that. And just give them some insight, because like I said, I think it's just lack of knowledge, right? And when we don't know better, we can't do better. So
absolutely.
And for you, if someone wants to get in contact with you, or someone wants to pitch you or learn more about you as a venture capitalist, where would they connect with you?
Absolutely. I love mentoring other women. I've done a lot of that. So contact me on LinkedIn.
Awesome. All right. So she is Diane Yoo on LinkedIn, and it will also be in the show notes. So I'll make sure that her links are there so that you can reach out to her. And, like Diane said, this is such an important thing for women of color, to understand. It is funding, and lack of funding is one of the main reasons that female business owners do not succeed. And we're like the fastest growing in terms of, starting businesses. So we start them, but we can't continue them. So, and part of why that is because we don't have funding, and we need that funding. So make sure that you follow Diane, and that if this is something that interests you, you reach out to her. I mean, she's saying that, she mentors people. This is hard. This is hard work. And, entrepreneurship is hard. Right. And so you have to, if you really want to succeed, you're going to have to do the work. So Diane, thank you again for being on the Ladies Who Leverage podcast. As always, thank you to all of you for tuning in. We drop our new episodes every Monday at 9 a.m. We are going to continue to bring you all kinds of amazing information, just like today, things that sometimes you may think are kind of out of the box or don't apply to you. And you may learn that it, in fact, is right in your wheelhouse. And for you female entrepreneurs who are looking to build your business badassery, and you need some women who are going to support you, and a mentor, me, who will help you to accelerate your way into building that business badassery, I'll invite you to join our Ladies Who Leverage Global Network and Mentoring Accelerator. It's an exclusive community. You need to apply and be invited, but go to lwlcollab.com and apply so that we can see if it is a good fit for you. And until next time, go unleash your badassery and live life unapologetic AF. Take care. Thank you for joining us. This podcast has been brought to you by Lady Lawyer Media. Make sure that you subscribe so that you never miss an episode. And if you are a female entrepreneur or business owner, and you're looking for a safe, supportive ecosystem to create and share ideas and information, build a thriving business, and live life unapologetically AF, then I'd invite you to apply to Ladies Who Leverage. We're an exclusive community of badass female entrepreneurs. So if that sounds like you, go to www.lwlcollab.com. That's LWLCOLLAB as in boy.com, so that you can apply to join us in our amazing badass network. And until then, I want you to unleash your badassery and live life unapologetically AF.